Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is all about the Kane Chronicles by Riordan. Now, I would usually take these out of the box one by one and talk about them because I've done it before, but I can't get them out of the box. I had a very hard time getting them back in. It took like 5 minutes to get the third one in. And I'm not gonna chance it, so I'm just gonna put it right here. Books 1 through 3 for the Kane Chronicles. We're gonna talk about it today. So overall, I gave all 4 out of 5 stars, and for the whole series, I'm gonna say 4 out of 5 stars. So this follows Carter and Sadie Kane. They are talking into a recorder about their what happened to them, happened to their family, and I think it's just something Rick came up with to do something a little bit different. Carter and Sadie Kane, they are brother and sister, and it turns out that they are related to some of the most popular or powerful pharaohs of ancient Egypt, which they did not know until their father sort of blew up the Rosetta Stone in the British Museum and released the 5 main gods. And it turns out, well, they have an uncle Amos that helps run one of the gnomes. So there's different, how many gnomes are there? There's a lot of gnomes throughout the world. The first gnome is obviously in ancient Egypt. That's where all of the magicians train, protect Egypt, and then it's kind of just spread out throughout the world. But you have to be like related in some way to Egyptians that have magic. Your magic depends on, I guess, genetics. So obviously, you know, they're trying to save the world, right? Isn't that always the case with Rick? You know, his characters are trying to save the world, you know, alongside gods and goddesses, and then from gods and goddesses and their minions. So I wanted to pick it up because I love ancient Egypt. I grew up just loving ancient Egypt because of my grandmother, who visited a couple of times. But then I got this box set from a friend last Christmas, so that was a very nice surprise. And then I didn't realize, but they also have short stories at the back, and that's mixed with Sadie and Carter and Annabelle and Percy, so from the Percy Jackson series. And I gave the short stories 4 out of 5 stars. Well, basically anything having to do with the Kane Chronicles, it's 4 out of 5 stars. Now, why is it 4 out of 5 stars? I really enjoyed the books and the short stories, but I didn't fall in love with them. So that's the thing. And I have a few issues that brought it down to 4 out of 5 stars. The first one is, it's a little weird, this is gonna be a spoiler, but it's a little weird that Sadie falls for Anubis, who it's said in the books is 5,000 years old, but he looks like a teenager, and he chooses around her not to have a jackal head, so he looks like a teenage boy. Thought that was weird. I think, do I recall? I think he kissed her on the cheek, or maybe it was a very quick kiss on the lips, and I was like, she's like 13. 13 turning 14. I don't think this is how this goes. I mean, that was weird. But like, then she also falls for Walt, another magician that she is friends with, that is also friends with Carter. And I'm like, okay, that's better because he's like not 5,000 years old. Okay. Yeah, he's around her age. That makes sense, doesn't it? And it's not like there's a lot of, I mean, it's a middle grade book series, so it doesn't even get past like a quick kiss. I mean, so Rick is like, oh, they kissed and that's it. There's also, I mean, there's some flirting going on, but that's, I've read about flirting and kissing briefly in middle grade books. Not too big of a deal, but Anubis thing was weird to me. And they, you know, spoiler alert, Rick kind of fixes that problem. I don't know if people like pointed it out, but he kind of fixes it because Walt is dying due to his a curse, because he's related to King Tut, and there's a whole, you know, story about that and how that bloodline is punished, so there's a curse and he dies early, and that's why King Tut died at 19 apparently, right? So he's dying, and then he basically dies in the third book, but then he is possessed kind of by Anubis, so there's that going on. I'm just like, okay then, I guess I don't know, it was a little weird. The second one is, so Sadie grew up in England, and at first she had, you know, idiosyncrasies of being English, and she uses English slang and all that stuff, but then that quickly disappeared, and she kind of just sounds like an American when she talks. I don't know how long that lasted. It maybe lasted half of the first book, and then the other stuff, it was just like, oh, I guess she's American now. I mean, if she, yeah, that was a little weird. And my biggest thing, and I'm not thinking as an adult reader, I'm thinking as a former tutor and someone who ran a tutoring center for quite a few years. The books are freaking big for middle grade. So Percy Jackson, it didn't go over like 300. If it did go over 300 pages, maybe it's like 310 or something like that. I don't really remember. But those were quick, those were concise, they were easy to read, it was quick to read Percy Jackson. I think that's why a lot of kids and adults and parents enjoyed Percy Jackson. Now, but looking as a kid, you see how thick all three of them are, and even the short stories are pretty long as well. Like the third short story in the back of the third book, that's like 62 pages. Oh, okay. Like, it's a lot. But even just if they took out the short stories in each of the end of the books, it would still be really long. I'm trying to remember, I think all three of them are basically pushing 400, or like they're over 400 pages. I don't know, maybe, so this was what I'm thinking about with like the Anubis thing, and then with it being so long, maybe Rick and his team or whatever publisher realized that maybe middle grade readers have grown up and now they're in high school, and so, but they still love Rick, so they were writing for teenagers in high school, not middle schoolers. Because I know a few middle graders that read the books and they really enjoyed it, but those are more like, you know, they're 8th graders type of thing. So that's like 13, maybe, no, not 14, 13. I can't recall any 6th grader reading the Kane Chronicles. The kids that I talked to, you know, when I was tutoring, that they read this, they really enjoyed it. The adults that were reading and reviewing this on Goodreads, a lot of them were like, it's cheesy, it's stupid, it's cliche. But kids, even teenagers, they want to be entertained, and, you know, they think it's funny, especially the, you know, bantering back and forth with Sadie and Kane. They think it's funny because, especially if you have siblings, that's what you're doing. You're playing around, you're joking around, you're teasing your sibling, so it's relatable. I think people forget on Goodreads, looking at you Goodreads, that this is for middle graders and maybe high schoolers, because I'm thinking, because it's so long, and with, you know, with the Anubis thing, maybe there was a thought of, okay, so it's gonna be like older middle graders that read it. So I think something went on behind the scenes with Rick and his team. Like, we figured out that maybe because he wrote Percy Jackson so long ago that now people, or like those readers are now basically young adults. So, which I don't know, makes sense, but then maybe, I don't, because he is for middle schoolers, so that's one of the things where it's really difficult, because there are, I know middle schoolers who have read these books, they enjoyed them, but there are a lot more that I just couldn't get them to read this series because it's too long. It's not, the writing isn't complicated, but when you have readers, or when you have students that are already struggling, or they don't have confidence to read in general, and even they think like a 300-page book is a lot, so for them even Percy Jackson might be too much for them. This is way too much. They're gonna look at it and be like, no, I don't know why you suggested this, but no. So I think he really put off quite a few middle schoolers, even though, you know, hypothetically, a lot of them read on grade level, let's just say. Yeah, he kind of pushed those aside, and I guess he is going for an older age bracket with the Kane Chronicles, which, I mean, it works because he has a lot of reviews on Amazon and Goodreads, and I'm sure everywhere else, because it's really popular. But, you know, if you're a parent or teacher watching this, yeah, you gotta have to be careful, because it says middle grade, but it's kind of like upper middle grade, and if you have a child or children that don't have a lot of reading confidence, they'll see this, how long it is, they'll be like, no. So just keep that in mind. Thank you so much for watching my book review on the Kane Chronicles. If you like what you saw, please comment, like, and subscribe, and have a great reading day. Bye!